Hey guys, welcome to section 7, chapter 1 of the geometry program. And in this section, we're going to cover perimeter, circumference, and area. Hopefully this is review, but if it's not, that's okay too. It's not terribly hard. Let's jump in. All right, so perimeter is the distance around the shape. And for our purposes in this section, we're basically going to be dealing with rectangles. So if you have a rectangle and its width is 5 and its length is 12, we could find the perimeter. Because we know that opposite sides of a rectangle are congruent, we could fill in the appropriate numbers and then we could add them up. So 5 and 5 is 10, 12 and 12 is 24. And so the perimeter would be 34. If there were units, for example, if it gave you 12 feet and 5 feet, then it would be 34 feet. Okay? All right, similarly, what if they just gave you the numbers, like the length is 10 and the width is 7? Then we could draw our rectangle. 10 and 7, we know that opposite sides are congruent. And we could add up. Perimeter equals 10 and 10 is 20. 7 and 7 is 14. I just realized it's the exact same number, 34. Okay, that's it for perimeter around rectangles. So that shouldn't be too bad. All right, let's talk circumference. Circumference is the equivalent to perimeter when dealing with circles. So circumference. So this is the distance around a circle. And we have a formula. The formula is circumference equals 2 pi r. So, for example, if we have a circle and we have the radius equaling 2. Remember, just side note, radius is from the center to the edge of the circle. The diameter goes all the way through the center and connects both sides of the circle. But in both the circumference and the area formula for circles, we always need the radius. So just be on guard against the information that they give you. We might have to convert it. Okay, so then the circumference would be 2 times pi times the radius, which in our case is 2. And then multiplication is commutative. So we can just go ahead and multiply 2 times 4, 2 times 2, which is 4 pi. The circumference of this circle is 4 pi. They might ask you to convert that to a decimal. If you can use the pi button on your calculator to get something like this. But overwhelmingly, and I like this as a personal practice, I like you to leave things in terms of pi. This is what we mean when we say leave it in terms of pi. The answer is simply 4 pi. Okay, what if I have a circle and the radius is 5? Then the circumference equals 2 pi r. I have my radius, so we can plug in 2 pi times 5. Multiply your numbers, and we're going to get 10 pi. That's your circumference. Now, just be careful because every once in a while, they're going to give you the diameter. Let's say the diameter is 20. But you need the radius. So remember, the radius has to be half of that. And then you can plug in using your radius, not the diameter. So the circumference is going to be 20 pi. All right, not too bad. So perimeter and circumference talk about the distance around the shapes. And then we also want to talk about area, which is all of the space inside the shape. So when we're dealing with a rectangle, for example, and the sides were like 4 feet and 10 feet, the formula is the length times the width. So the length and width are 4 and 10, which would give me 40. And then it's important when we're dealing with area to have the appropriate units. So this would be feet squared. It's squared because we have two dimensions here. We have length and we have width. We're multiplying them together, giving us 2 units. So the answer would be 40 feet squared. Okay, similarly, be on your guard for something like different types of units. There's a section in your homework where they give you rectangles and they have different units that you have to convert to. So there's going to be lots of ways that you can do that. You just have to be consistent. So either in this case, convert to yards, which if you did that here, you would get a fraction, which would make you uncomfortable, I think. So probably the easier thing to do is convert 4 yards into inches. All right, now how would we do that? Well, we know that there's 3 feet in a yard. So I can multiply 4 times 3 to get me into feet. And then how many inches are in a foot? There are 12. So this would give me 144 inches. And we worked on that some in previous courses, so hopefully that's not too challenging. But now notice you haven't solved the problem yet. All you've done is converted to the appropriate units so that you have the same units. So now, instead of having 4 yards here, you have 144 inches. And then you have 20 inches over here. So now we can plug in. Area is going to be 144 inches times 20 inches, which is going to give us 2,880 inches squared. And yes, I'm totally going to be that teacher who takes off a little bit if you don't put the units in there. So it's just important. It's one of those really small details that often gets overlooked, but we need it for correctness. So be on your guard against that. Okay, like I said, hopefully this is review. The only other thing that we need to talk about is the area of a circle, which again also deals with the radius. And again, I hope that we've done this before, so it should be pretty easy. But let's say we have a circle and we have a diameter of 10. Well, we don't need the diameter, we need half of that for the radius. So half of 10 is 5. Then we can plug in, area is going to equal pi and then our radius squared. So 5 squared is 25 pi. And actually this should have probably had a unit, like 10 feet. Anytime we're finding area, there should be a unit there. So this should also be feet squared. And I think all of these have you leaving it in terms of pi, which just makes your life a little bit easier, which is nice. Okay, let's do one more. Let's say you have a circle and you have a radius of 7. So then your area is going to be pi times 7 squared. And this is going to be 49 pi inches squared. So don't forget those units in there and practice leaving it in terms of pi. And that's it. That's it for this section. It's actually it for the chapter. Then we're going to do a little bit of review and have a chapter test, and we'll be moving on. So finish up your notes, read through the examples, and begin your assignment.